Hey everyone. Okay, so we are live right now with Scott and Mark to talk about what to expect. And we're just gonna give it like a few seconds so that people can like join in because it takes like a second to share this to all of our feeds. But if you can see this right now, y'all, please tell us where you're watching from. Put it in the chat so that Mark, Scott, and I can see. And then we'll introduce ourselves.
All right. I see a bunch of people on my YouTube, a bunch of people on my LinkedIn, and a bunch of people on TikTok. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Look at that. Streaming works across multiple platforms.
Does.
How cool is that?
This is so good. Yes, this is going to be fun. It is going to be fun.
A gentleman from Egypt. Here's Austin, Colorado.
Oh, yes. Poland, come
Alexandria.
through. I love this. San Antonio, Charlotte. Wow, it's blowing up. Singapore. I was there last week. Go Singapore. Canada.
You were in Singapore last week?
Yeah, on vacation.
Just casually throw that out. You're just like, oh,
yeah. Look.
That's pretty cool. I was in Beaverton, Oregon last week. So that was.
Not Oregon. I've never been there, so that's so cool. We're gonna dive right into it, right? Like, are y'all excited? Can I get a whoop whoop? Put a whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop whoop.
Okay, I'm putting that on my resume. I got Mark Russinovich to say whoop whoop.
Okay. Scott needs to say it too. I can't.
No, I'm good.
Don't leave me hanging.
Okay, whoop.
Oh, two whoops.
Come on, Scott.
Scott, you can do it.
I'm sorry, I'm debugging a problem right now on my other screen.
Oh, okay. You're too cool.
Say whoop one more time.
All right, whoop. You can put it together with AI.
We don't even need you to say it with AI.
There's Bob Bajan.
There's Bob. Hey, Bob. Y'all, we're gonna get into this. So, y'all, we've got the laughs going. We're chilling. Grab your favorite bevy. Grab your favorite food. My favorite bevy is water. And tune in with us. We're gonna get into it with Mark. Tell us your favorite memory from previous Microsoft builds. And I know you hate this question, but answer it for your fans on the.
I'll tell you, my favorite memory was presenting with Scott. Oh, that was Ignite.
We have fun though. We have fun.
We had a lot of fun. Favorite memory from build.
Yeah.
Giving a talk on FPGAs, expecting there to be 20 people in the audience and walking into several hundred.
Ooh.
I've got an FPGA on my desk. I just got in the mail, an ice stick lattice.
Wow.
Mark, you can buy these things. They're super cheap now. And then I got an analog pocket for emulation. So I'm seeing people running the Game Boys and stuff on FPGAs. And this is an FPGA that you just plug into your machine and then you work. I'm trying to plug it into WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux, because I should be able to do all my development on Windows. So FPGA development on Windows under Linux.
Are you going to write some code for it? Or you?
I'm just going to hold it up at a live and then tell you about it.
Yeah. Or download just.
No, that is the goal, right? The goal. There's actually a gentleman on GitHub who has an entire class on doing FPGA stuff from scratch. Because I'm working on this. I think I told you about that. Yeah. And then on my ground here on the floor, I'm building.
Scott always shows us his cool things. Look at you carrying a whole box over.
Well, this is I'm working on an Apple I from parts. This is Wozniak's project. So this is the 1976 Apple I, and I've got the keyboard controller working today, and I had to go to Goodwill and buy a PS2 plug-in, and I've got this working right now, and actually I can turn it on, and I put the bus lights right here so I can see the 8-bit bus between the video controller and the keyboard controller, and then this is starting to boot up here. It's pretty cool. I'm having a lot of fun.
Did you already finish your Zoom project?
That is under wraps. That'll be on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you're giving us, a little glimpse into your world right now, but tell us, what can we expect from both of y'all at Microsoft Build? Like, are you going to talk about
more of this?
More of this? Okay. But like
hanging out. We're just going to hang out.
Well, so we put together an idea. They were like, you should talk about Copilot. And I was like, I mean, we could go and do a bunch of Copilot demos. And then I was like, what if we did Mark and Scott Learn to Code? And Mark, it's like we could just pick an obscure language that we don't understand and learn it live on stage, and that'd be cool. And Copilot would be our friend. So we're going to try to build an app from scratch, from Hello World all the way to shipping it into Azure in an hour, and we'll have three folks on stage: me, Mark, and then an assistant, which is our Copilot assistant.
Darn it, it's not me. Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought we would do, besides just showing Copilot helping us code, is talking about what's behind Copilot and large language models and how they work. And so it's like 2 sessions in one.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really important point, because there's a lot of stuff where Copilot will do something. We're going to then pause the presentation.
Yeah.
And then Mark will kind of like in the book, when you're reading a technical book and there's like a little box that says a side note, we'll then go off to the side and we'll go, hey, what happened here was, and here's why this felt like it was a human, but it wasn't a human. It was a large language model. And here's the difference between AI and AGI. And here's the difference between AI and a large language model.
I mean, like, okay, so we've heard about all of the different types of Copilots, right? But talk to me a little bit more about Copilot X. Like, what's that? How can it be beneficial to the folks on this stream? Like, I'm sure they want to hear a little bit more about that.
You want to go, or you want me to go?
Well, I'll tell you what my experience with Copilot, because I started using it a few months ago. And one of the first things that I did with it is I've only done a tiny bit of Go programming in the past. And I was embarking on a project in Go to actually improve the performance of gRPC using shared memory. And decided to do Go as the first language for this, and was using Copilot and VS Code to do it. And it was just fantastic at helping me write code. It was almost like reading my mind. I tweeted about this. But the other thing I was doing was alongside it using ChatGPT to ask questions about Go modules and how to do certain things in Go. And I found the combination really magical.
Yeah.
So what said, this is obviously the future of pairwise programming, is not just Copilot autocomplete, but having an assistant that helps and guides you and generates code for you that's much larger than just what context you happen to be in the editor. Yeah. And that's basically exactly what Copilot X is making a programming version of ChatGPT sitting there right inside of your IDE, where you can ask it questions about what you're doing. It's aware of what's in your editor, which is something that I didn't have with ChatGPT, and can generate code that you can then just paste right into with a click, have it paste right into your editor. And so it's just Copilot, the previous Copilot on steroids with the help of
I mean, I love that. I wanted to ask you, Scott. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
No, I was going to say that it's worth pointing out that in a lot of traditional tech conferences, you would go and say, "I want to see Mark talk about Copilot," and then he loads up PowerPoint, and then you kind of go, right. But at Build this year, we're really doubling down on the technical content, trying to bring back that kind of live coding without a net feeling that a lot of folks remember from pre-COVID days. We want to bring back a little bit of energy. We tried this at Ignite last year, where Mark and I basically went through the source code for Zoom It and made changes, and then at the end of it released a version of Zoom It that had changes we made live on stage. So it's one thing to go and say, I want to hear Russinovich talk about Copilot. It's another thing to say, I want historical context. I want future proofing. I want to understand what Copilot means in the larger historical context. And I want to see it without PowerPoint. I want to see two people using it live and then contextualize it. And we're going to enable that at Build in a way that I don't think we've been able to do in previous years, which is going to be pretty cool.
I mean, so I'm fascinated by it all, right? But I'm curious, how do you all both see Copilot helping like new developers, right? Because when you both started, I don't know how long ago, we're not going to name years, but when you all both started, you didn't have Copilot, right? It wasn't around. This technology wasn't around. And now developers starting now, like they have this technology. So talk to us a little bit about how it's going to help them, what you see it doing for them, and things that they should probably avoid or maybe delve deeper into.
Pick one of us. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we'll
you
talk
need
forever.
yeah, we'll talk over each other.
Go, Mark. You go first.
How do I see it helping new developers? Well, I think my example with Go was a perfect example. I mean, I'm already familiar with basics of programming,
Yeah.
but I wasn't familiar with a lot of Go, or deeply familiar. I read a book on it, but reading a book is not the same as understanding when you're talking about programming. And so I've heard stories of people that are like, I'm new to Rust, and I mean, somebody just from inside of Microsoft said, I want to learn Rust. I wanted a decent project. My goal was to take and implement Paxos, which is a complicated distributed algorithm in Rust. And he sent me the ChatGPT transcript that took him from zero understanding of Rust to having a working implementation of Paxos in Rust.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it can do for somebody new to programming too. Right. Is I do think it's important to have fundamentals behind you. You can't just approach it like, oh, I'm new to programming, let me just pick up Copilot X and it'll teach me everything. I think you need to understand some fundamentals, which, again, things like Bing Chat or ChatGPT can help you with that as well. But a book is actually a great way to have things organized and laid out in a way that builds through a learning path for you. But I think once you've got that basic foundation, then it just accelerates your learning.
Right. What about
I think it's also worth pointing out that today, and for the foreseeable future, and please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, Mark, it doesn't really understand what you're trying to do. It's just trying to think a little bit ahead of you in a way that is faster. It's similar to a chess board, like a chess system. Why can the chess board beat you? Why can the chess AI beat you? It's because it's looking farther ahead. Right. If I could look farther ahead, then I would have the code written already.
Exactly.
So it's not fancy autocomplete because that only looks a couple of steps ahead. But if you could look thousands of steps ahead, millions of steps ahead, then you'd be done. But every new interaction you have with Copilot is new context that it didn't have. So it's supposed to get better and more understanding, but it can't read your mind. So you can order an Uber or a Lyft and you can sit in it. Yeah. But you got to tell the guy where to go. But then the tire pops, the oil runs out, car runs out of gas. You have a choice. You can either get out and leave that poor gentleman in his car alone, or you can get out and you can help him change his tire. That requires you to know how to drive a stick shift, how to change a tire. And so Copilot can get you some way forward, but then you got to get out of the car and look at the tires. And so knowing your basics, knowing the base of the pyramid, Copilot's not going to save you. But if you think about Copilot in terms of like, it's more of an Iron Man suit that you put on and it makes you better, as opposed to a robot that stands next to you that's an empty Iron Man suit, right? The whole point of Iron Man or Ironheart is you put the suit on and it makes you better, which is very different than an autopilot. And that's why it's called Copilot and not autopilot.
I mean, so I'm hearing from both of you that like this fundamentals are key. And, maybe in a couple of minutes, we'll get to some book recommendations that you have. Because I know Mark mentioned like, start with the book, right? And last time we had this live stream, Scott, you did show us 2 book recommendations. So hopefully you can give us some more. Yeah, but Bob has a question. Would love to hear what the 2 of you think of the content and our approach this year. We have tried to do a lot of different things in an effort to speak to devs in a way that resonates deeply. How do you think we've done so far?
Well, I answered Bob's question a few minutes ago when I commented on how we're trying to bring more live coding, fewer slides, more interactive. Like the point isn't to demo a bunch of stuff to sell to you. It's to get you feeling empowered and excited about what you could potentially go and build. So a good talk at Build will be one where the person goes home, goes to the hotel, goes somewhere right after that talk, and they go, I need to figure out how I can apply what I learned in Mark's talk right now. It shouldn't be like, oh, I feel inspired and now I feel like Microsoft's great. No, I want to go call my boss and like, did you know what they could do? Let's implement that at the company right now. That's the goal of a talk at Build, a technical talk at Build.
Yeah.
I think. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think on this talk in particular, I mean, when Scott and I started talking about it, it's after I had those wow moments with Copilot, and I was thinking, there's still a lot of people out there that maybe haven't been exposed to Copilot at all and aren't aware of just how much it can help them.
Right.
And even for those that have, maybe they don't understand all the ways that it can help them. And so I thought it'd be great. And then, of course, there's also this, talk within the talk that we've got on what is this technology? How was it built? How does it work? That we can also educate people on at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think, going to be a really fun talk from that perspective as well. Educational and fun.
We love fun. So more fun. Heavy on the fun. Matt is asking, what does the roadmap look like for the future of app developers? Are they generally going to be replaced by these tools? Ooh, that's spicy. I'm seeing a lot of that online. I see in the short term the need for people operating the tools and translating business requirements to code requests. But at what point will that be a redundancy?
I don't feel like I'm going to get replaced, but I understand why people are feeling like that. The problem is, and this is my opinion, and
Yeah.
I'm interested in Mark's, but if you put a sock puppet on your hand, Koswa, okay, and you say, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Hi, how are you?" And you say, "Act like you're alive," and the sock puppet goes, "I'm alive." You don't get to go and say, "What have I done?" Right? If you tell an AI, if you tell a large language model to be a jerk, to act like Shakespeare, to write a limerick, it's going to do the thing that you ask it to, right? So can it replace us, or is it going to just do weird stuff and augment us? I don't know. Maybe when artificial general intelligence gets there, yeah. My perspective on the tools that I'm working on and the stuff that I'm interested in building is to get rid of the boring stuff. So developer toil is my goal. If I never have to look at another YAML file, then that I've done my job, right? I don't want to think about boring. I want to do creative stuff. I don't like AI that generates art. That's what humans are good at. I want AI to generate the dull stuff, like the website to sell the art. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah.
Am I off base here?
I don't think so. I mean, so first of all, I think what the number is 40 million. There's a shortage of 40 million developers right now. So it's not like there's jobs. If it makes the existing developers more productive or makes programming accessible to people that it's not accessible to today, it's just good for everybody.
Right.
I think we're a long, long way away from you just being able to wave your hand and say, go make something that does X.
Yeah.
When I think about the development we've got in Azure for Azure services, there's a ton of decision making and complexity that is hard to capture, even in a way that a large, to give in a complete, thorough way to large language model. I think that, and it requires a lot of understanding about constraints and requirements and the way systems work. I think we're way far away from you being able to say, go make Azure and go make a service that is event processing service.
Right.
And having a large language model just go do it. Go ahead, Scott. Looks like you're wanting to
Someone
interrupt.
in the chat has a comment, and I want to respect their comment because they just pushed back and they said, well, there's a lot of people employed making those boring websites that sell art. So that's a really interesting balance, right? Because why do we do software? We do it to solve problems. We do it to employ people, to help people. Should we? I mean, is that a boring thing? It's boring to me, but for someone else, that's a lot of value. So this gentleman George here made that comment. We should think about that. What do you think? The developer shortage is true, but should we not automate anything with Copilot?
Well, I think actually, technology is always changing and changing the shape of jobs.
Right.
And cloud, which is one that I was involved with, we had the same thing from IT, enterprise IT people. They were saying, what, you're going to end my job? There's no shortage of work for a IT enterprise right now. Even with the advent of cloud, their jobs have changed. They're not walking around data centers with CDs and upgrading systems with them like they were in the early 2000s. There's fewer people doing on-prem network design, but overall, the pool of jobs for enterprise IT has grown because of cloud. And so I think that's the same situation here. Yeah, you might, the creating cell art might be something that goes away, but doing other things, there's going to be other opportunities in the same areas that this will create.
I'm curious, like, I know people are thinking that their job may be replaced by technology and so on and so forth. We've heard that like discussion for years. But is there any consideration for how long it takes to scale like the technology to, I mean, for example, Microsoft has over 100,000 employees. This is just an example. Could we say, like realistically say that one day technology could take all those people's jobs? And it's just like, personally, my mind, like every time I hear that discussion, I'm finding it hard to consolidate like the scaling of the technology to replace all those jobs. Like, is that a fair perspective to have, or am I just living in a different cloud, but in a different world, maybe I should say. Like, I just can't see
This is getting philosophically
Yeah, no.
complicated, which is beyond the scope of build. But I think one thing to think about is if we lived in a Star Trek: The Next Generation environment where I didn't have to worry about where I slept and whether I had food that day, then that's great. Replace my
Right.
job. But I'd like to do something, right? I
Yeah.
think that the easiest way to answer that is if it's incredibly dull and repetitive and boring and provides no artistic expression or output, if it doesn't require any human effort,
Right.
then that's going to be something that AI is going to help make better or go away.
Yeah.
Thereby hopefully freeing you up to do more interesting stuff. Now, I don't think it's good personally that like an AI can go and like summarize my entire blog and then make Hanselman's blog or Russinovich's blog part 2. That's a total ripoff of all of our personal hard work. You know what I mean? That's not what it's for. But if it can help me like with an outline and give me some inspiration, and then I do the rest, that seems like value added. And my job wasn't removed.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. So I see Antonio asked a question, and other people are agreeing with that question. But Antonio says, would love to hear how Mark and Scott think Copilot will help improve building more secure code, and will it be a small or significant impact?
I think it'll, well, I mean, I think that's clear. It'll be significant. And we'll talk about limitations with it. Like today, it's you're not guaranteed to generate secure code. And this is good, you know, goes to the whole, at least for the foreseeable future, in the near future, you need to double check its work.
Yeah.
To make sure it's doing it what you asked for and make it sure that it's doing it securely. And this goes back to you need to understand fundamentals.
Yeah.
But these models are just going to get better and more capable, and they will right now working on, for example, minimizing hallucination, something else we'll talk about in the session, as well as making sure that it's ingesting secure code so that it's less likely to generate insecure code.
Right. I mean, okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about y'all sessions. Like, don't give away too much so that people can be like enticed to come and join you all at your sessions. But tell us, like, how many sessions are you running at Build? Where can people come hang out with you? What else are you doing? I know, Mark, you're going to be hanging out with some of the creators in the content creator program. But what else are you doing at Microsoft Build? So let's start with your sessions that you two have together, and then go into the other things of how people can bump into you in Seattle.
I've got to do, I have to look at my schedule. It's crazy. I've been helping with Amanda Silver and Scott Hunter's featured sessions.
Scott's in all the Build sessions.
Like all.
I have my fingers in a lot of them. I'm doing one called Developer Joy.
Okay.
About all the cool stuff that's happening in Windows, because like a half decade of making Windows better for developers, everything from terminal to WSL to stuff you haven't heard of yet. That's all, you know, part of my personal passion and the work of hundreds of people to make Windows awesome for devs. We've seen that in the last 5 years with WinGet, with Windows Terminal, and with WSL, and we've got new stuff to show. That's going to be Thursday afternoon. Then Wednesday afternoon. Then you and I are Thursday afternoon. Mark and Scott Learn to Code. And then a bunch of panels and stuff like that. Oh, here's a question. Does Microsoft dog food Copilot internally? Yeah, we all have a license. So we as employees, like you can sign up for Copilot right now. You can go and pay a couple of bucks and sign up for Copilot. But we have an enterprise license, so we treat it as a customer, and then we just sign up, associate our GitHub, and once you're signed into your GitHub, you have access to that. So yeah, we do dog food that internally.
Mark, you didn't tell us what you're doing at Microsoft Build.
Well, you mentioned one of the things I'm doing. I'm also
Yes.
doing podcasts and meeting customers there and partners. I'm also doing another session on Wednesday afternoon, which is Azure innovation session. So it's basically the data center internals or Azure futures kinds of sessions I've been doing for many years.
Yeah.
Just this incarnation of it, which is jam-packed with new things that I haven't talked about before, including lots of demos. In fact, I've got 9 demos right now that look awesome. I'm not sure they will all fit.
Did you say 9?
No, yeah. I might have to. I think my record is from an Ignite, like pre-COVID, the last one, which was, I think, 8 demos. So I think I might be a little over.
Do you challenge yourself every time? Like, how many demos can I do? Like, do you look in the mirror and you're like, Mark, you got to do like more demos than you did at the last conference?
Mark and I do weird. We want to like one up each other.
It's so hard. Like for every one of these, I put together like content that is 3 times the length of the session, and then have to, just because I'm like, oh, I need to go collect innovations. I hope I've got enough. And then it's like, whoop, 3 times as much as I need. And then it's so hard to cut once you've got it in, because like, that is so cool. I wish we could talk about that. And so, but that's where I'm at, is trying to figure out what I fit in.
I bet. Like, honestly, y'all, if you're watching this right now, which I hope you are, or maybe you're watching it on demand, you definitely want to be in Seattle. So go ahead, do your little thing, register for Microsoft Build, come and chill out with Mark and Scott at the Summit building in Seattle. Maybe you'll catch one of Mark's 9 demos if you can fit them all in. But you'll probably see Scott running around as per usual. But y'all are all personable, right? Like Mark, Scott, like you're gonna be on the floor chatting.
Personable, like you can talk to us.
Yeah.
I am very personable. Mark will have like around. He'll have like Mandalorians in a circle as he walks through.
I'll wave like this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can talk to Scott. You can wave at Mark. At least, you know what? Own it. Like, if you're on your Beyonce energy, own that, right? Like, that's the stuff Beyonce's on. So it's cool.
Oh, actually, if I may, Sayed in the chat there, let's bring that one up. Just said, how can I get Copilot X? I need an invite.
Ooh,
I believe that people who register for Build get priority. That you could jump the line for Copilot.
Yes.
You have to register now.
You missed it, Syed, but if you register, you're going to see a ticker pop up here. If you register for in person to attend Microsoft Build in Seattle before May 21st, you'll receive priority access to GitHub Copilot X. So you definitely want to go ahead and do that ASAP, okay, Syed, so that you can get priority access and play along with GitHub Copilot there.
And I see somebody asked about sysinternals. So I don't have any session on sysinternals, but Scott and I will show you how to use Zoom it.
Can I switch from virtual to in-person now?
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Todd. Definitely.
Go ahead and do it, Todd. Go ahead and do it. We want you here in Seattle. So flip the switch, hit the button, and join us in Seattle.
Someone's proposing a
LinkedIn
director's cut of Russinovich sessions.
I think he's
talking
extended
about directive cut.
Yeah, Azure innovation session.
That's good.
All your fans in the chat. Jamie, you'll get a special cut. No, you won't. But you might see some replays. It'll be on demand, hopefully. What other things do you expect to hear in the keynote? I don't know. You know what? We'll let Mark and Scott take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not going to touch that. There's good secret stuff. Not every. I mean, there's a lot of AI. I think AI is a good thing, but I don't think that everything's going to be AI. There's other stuff. It's not.
There's other things. There's going to be other stuff. Honestly, hit that register button now. And I think there's some other folks that are in the chat that can tell you a little bit of a brief sneak peek too. But you've heard a lot. You've heard a lot about what, we've given you some glimpses of what you can expect to hear at Microsoft Build. So what it's up to you is to go hit that register now button. We stand the Hanselman. Oh my God, both of y'all have fans. Like, I should have paid some bots to come in here and say we stand a Kosuo. Okay.
No, Dirk is not a bot. No, Dirk is not a bot. No, why would you don't disrespect people?
I should have made some bots then, because you're like, so I love this. Okay, here's one. I'm surprised about how few devs know about sysinternals and how it's indispensable.
Winget install sysinternals. It's the fastest way to get it.
Or go to the Microsoft store and get it.
Yeah.
Or just live.sysinternals.com/
Also true.
Yeah.
Yes, we are at our 30-minute hangout time, though. It was so great talking to you, Scott and Mark. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us a little bit of sneak peek into what you're planning for Microsoft Build. I see some people saying that they've registered. Others are trying to change their registration to in-person. Please do that. And then Levi, there'll definitely be digital sessions that you can tune into. So please tune into those. And then please feel free to share this live stream on your pages if you think somebody else can benefit from it, y'all. But Mark, Scott, any last words?
No, we're going to do our best to edutain you. Best of our ability.
Good word.
You like that?
Yeah.
I love that. Thanks all. Take care.